Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, again brought to you by the Dynamo Podcast Network. Also, our sponsors for this show tonight is Hogan Elite Trophy Hire. Head over there and get 10% off all your silverware needs for your special occasions. Every trophy available. As always, we're on YouTube. Head over to YouTube, and we're also on Spotify and Anchor. So if you prefer the audio versions, smash those subscribe buttons, hit those likes and shares, and help spread the word of the Upper Tier and the Dynamo Podcast Network so we can help grow this channel. And always support Irish podcasting. So our topic for tonight, which was recommended by Dean, was to pick our top Premier League squad that never won the league. And I don't know about you guys, it'll be interesting, but it was quite a task. So joining me obviously is Craig, Dino, and Dean. And it was Dean's topic. So I suppose it's only fair, Dean, you head us off on this topic. Go ahead.
Right, so yeah, you done you done the video with the last week or the week before regarding the best Premier League 11 to win the league, which realistically could be the best Premier League team of all time. But yeah. Yesterday, I think I texted you the day before, and I was just walking around work on Football Mad. I was wandering around work, and I was thinking of what could be a good topic to get on the Dynamo podcast, the Upper Tier. And I was like, you know what? I said, I've never seen teams, you hear of them put together on the likes of Match of the Day and all that, and pundits just getting together for general chit-chat. And you hear of, I think of the players that were nearly did it, that deserved to win it, the likes of Gerrard and what have you. And I was saying, like, that's a really interesting topic, because you'll find it hard when you look, because everyone forgets the teams that didn't win it. You always remember the teams that did win it. So I said I'd put it to you, and you got back to me this morning, like, right, let's do it. So I spent the day, I've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8 pages here in notes. And I was looking at the goalkeeper situation. I found it really, really hard to pick a world-class, like, not world-class, but like a class right back of the Premier League era that had won the league, because you have your Gary Neville, do you know what I mean? As Pilaqueta won a league title, you have players like that who've made a lasting impact that'll be talked about forever. So we ended up going with a 3-4-3 because I couldn't pick a right back. So I was saying to myself, there's so many like unbelievable players in attacking that never won a league. So I was like, well, I just play 5 in the middle, 4 up front, or 5 in the middle, 5 and, and just let them do whatever. If they can all attack together, then go back together. So this is the 11 I came up with. Goalkeeper wise, obviously the standout one who's got so close to winning the Premier League was Pepe Reina. 136 clean sheets and 297 appearances, 3 Golden Gloves, 3 seasons in a row. On his day, he was the best keeper in the world. It's just unfortunate that that team came at a time when you check Van der Sar, you know, that for me was probably the best Liverpool team never to win a league. That team was phenomenal. But I decided to leave Rain on the bench. I went with David James. Second, you can't jump in when I'm talking. Second on the all-time clean sheet list. Remember back in his early Liverpool days, Jesus Christ, he was prone to an absolute howler. You'd want to pull your now back then you didn't have a telly you could pull off a wall. You had the big fucking fridge, and there was a few times the remote nearly went through that. But he kind of got his shit together, and he made a very, very lasting impression on the Premier League. He was quite on his day. He was very, very hard to beat, and to be second in like you'd Schmeichel, Czech, you had your Reina, Brad Friedel, Jaska Loin, Nigel Martin, like to have the second most clean sheets in Premier League history, that's quite an achievement.
That's all the other lads' goalkeepers rattled off there now. Good one. That's goalkeepers taken care of. Move on.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a bad decision, but being a Liverpool fan, I didn't want to be too biased and just go with 11 Liverpool players who never won the league. So David James in goal. 3 at the back, right? So I'll start with everyone's favourite. If John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, and Nemanja Vidic wasn't around, Jamie Carragher would be in my team. So you have to stick him in. 700 odd appearances for Liverpool. again, like David James at the start, he was a bit. I don't think he knew his position. Right back, centre back, left back. He played holding midfielder for Liverpool, but he turned out all right in the end, didn't he?
Not too bad at all. Here, it wouldn't be like Liverpool to be throwing players out in different positions anyway. Just saying.
Not at all. I'm expecting Kevin Kelleher, when he signs this 4-year deal, to be tried out pre-season and centre back. Remember, we had Shamal George playing up front in friendlies. Me back three is where I think I'm going to surprise people. In the middle of that back three is Marcel Desailly, World Cup winner, came into Chelsea at the twilight of his career, but was an absolute monster. The fella, it was class. He was just calmness personified, but when he got going, if you pissed him off, you knew about it. He was a tough bastard. As I said, World Cup winner. Hard as you like, and I think he was part of that team that beat Liverpool on the last day to get them into the Champions League for the first time. Wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
To go into that team, and I think that was kind of the start of Chelsea starting to become what they are now. They hadn't got the money at that time, but they were starting to build something. Good players were coming in, and getting Champions League football that year was a massive boost for them because it enticed better players in, and they've gradually progressed with a few bob behind them to where they are now. So yeah, that's why in the back. This one. I think you'll appreciate this one, Niall. I started liking football in probably 1994 when me ma met me stepdad. He brought me to my first Liverpool match, and that's when you obviously played football when you were younger than that, but you never really took notice at that age of what was on the telly in front of you. When my dad brought me to my first Ireland match, Tony Cascarino, Niall Quinn, Steve Staunton, Roy Keane in his early days. But Paul McGrath was playing at the back that day, and I swear to God, he's probably one of the best centre-backs to ever play the game, ever. And you have to remember, he played football when he was fucking pissed. I read a story about him, and he was saying, he says, the amount of games that I played where I had to hold my breath while I was running because I didn't want the attacker to smell the drink off me. He said, biggest regret was leaving Man United, because I believe if he'd stayed at Man United and kind of cleaned up his act, he probably would have won 5 or 6, probably 7 Premier Leagues. Who knows, with him at the back, they could have won a Champions League before that one in 99. But I just remember watching them that day, and I played as a striker when I was younger, and I just remember watching Paul McGrath. He was so calm on the ball. You know what I mean? It didn't matter who he could have been up against, the best striker on the planet. It didn't faze him. Everything was simple. He won everything in the air. He scored the odd goal or two, and I believe he's one of, how long is the Premier League going? Over 35 years?
92, 93, is it?
34 years, isn't it?
Yeah. 34 years. In 34 years, only 6 players, I think, have won the PFA Players Player of the Year award. And Paul McGrath was one of them. It just shows you the type of player he was. For his peers, knowing that he was an absolute pisshead, his peers took notice of that and seeing how brilliant he was. So I don't think he's out of place in it. I know he never got close to winning the Premier League, but I don't think he's out of place in an all-time team in that position. So that's the 3 at the back sword. If you're not a Liverpool fan, you're probably going to tell me to fuck off with this one. But as I said, I wanted to have as much flair and attacking the team as possible. And I just think these two, when they were part of Liverpool's midfield, they were like a summer's day. You had them, the love heart emojis, the face with the love hearts in the eyes. When I watched these two playing in the middle for Liverpool, this is how I felt. So this fella always done it in the attack. He was kind of a go-to guy when we were shit. But I'm going to play him as the number 6 just to get the other 3 into the team. So sitting into the front of the fence, I'm going with Stevie G. No word needed. Like everyone, you ask Man United fans, name the best player to not win a Premier League. Steven Gerrard's who they say. Mr. Liverpool, how many times did he get us out of the hole? That goal against Olympiacos, the 2 goals against West Ham in the FA Cup,
Istanbul,
Champions League final. Just, but like, I remember, like, I can't remember. I think it was 2007, 2008, or 2008, 2009. We were few games we were 2-0 up, and we came back to 2-2, and he just popped up with goals that, like, you had to see them to believe. Like, 35 odd yards out to the top corner. Like you're winning 5 or 6-0, and he's like, I'll just bang this one and see where it goes. But Gerrard for me was Mr. Liverpool.
Rarely scored a tap in.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. He barely scored a tap in.
Yeah.
So because I went with Stevie G there as the number 6, just sitting in front of him was the sexy Spaniard himself, Xabi Alonso. I think he's a bit of Irish roots in him as well. I believe when he grows a beard, he's a bit of ginger in him. So there's definitely a bit of Irish roots in him. That fella had opened the door. He put a football into a keyhole, that fella. Gerrard was a great passer of the ball, but Xabi Alonso, fuck me. He put a ball onto a 50 pence from your back garden over the house into the front garden. It was just absolutely unbelievable. Set pieces was deadly. Just so calm. Just so calm. You could have playing against Chelsea, you could have Makelele running, breathing down your neck, and if it didn't phase him, he'd pick out the just enough space to put the ball around you, or just enough space to put over the top of a defender or in between two defenders, no matter how close they were. He made everything look so simple. So I hope anyone that watches this that isn't a Liverpool fan isn't screaming now saying that's just fucking biased. If you have a think about it and how close they were to winning the league, they definitely deserve to be in there. So the next two, now I just want to put out an honourable mention. As I said, kind of 94, 95 is when I started taking a real interest in football on the telly. And as I said, I went to my first Liverpool game in 94, and Ian Rush was playing, Barnes was playing, Jan Molby was playing, Ruddock was playing. So at that time, I was kind of only beginning my journey as a Liverpool fan. And so honourable mentions go out to Ian Rush and go out to John Barnes and Jan Molby and all. But as I said, I texted Niall earlier, my team is based on players like from when I really started getting into taking notice and following football and picking out players like, I love him. But Newcastle, hold on one sec. I'll tell you what year this was. Newcastle, I think it was 95, 96. They won the infamous, I would love it if we beat them. I think that was the year the whole rant. But that Newcastle team really should have won the league that year. And I think the whole rant thing, it was like Benitez with the whole facts thing. I think when Keegan had that little outburst, you just knew it was game up for them. But that team that year had David Ginola in it. And he was absolutely phenomenal. Had that guile and that zest. He just breezed past players. He was absolutely gorgeous as well, in fairness. I remember pausing to tell you a few times when he'd whip the shirt off, celebrating, like, fucking gorgeous you were. Slick hair running in the wind, celebrating, the little flex in the muscles and all. But footballing wise, absolutely amazing. Just amazing to watch. He's one of those players where I wish he'd been in an air team at some stage. But
I think at the time he was all over the telly, wasn't he? I mean, he was on coffee ads and milk tray ads and all sorts of stuff. And I think he wasn't the first one to come out, I think, with the L'Oreal because I'm worth the type of thing and all this kind of thing, wasn't he? Because he had the hair and all, or one of the hair products.
He done a couple other ones as well, didn't he? Tell you, but he was like the Jamie Redknapp of French football. He was.
Yeah, I think he did one as well. Didn't he do one as well for a bank, for a credit card or something like that? He was on everything,
that's right. Yeah. And in the latter years when he had the grey stubbly beard and the slick grey hair and all, he was doing the suits and all. But footballing wise, he was absolutely amazing to watch. When he went to Spurs, then he really kicked on. And it's just a shame. That's why we're doing this tonight. It's a shame that these players never won a Premier League, because you look at players who have won. Like Luke Chadwick has a Premier League medal. Like that alone, Luke Chadwick has a Premier League medal, and none of these players do. It breaks me fucking heart. But the next one at the top of me midfield is Luka Modric. I hope no one else was going to stick him into the team. But Luka Modric, I kind of played around with. I was going to go with 4-4-2. Then I was going to go with 3-5-2, and I was like, just to get Gerrard and Alonso, I had Ginola in front of them, and then I was going to put in Zola. I was going to put in Gianfranco Zola, but like last minute I stuck in Modric. I just scribbled Zola's name on it. He look what he's gone on to achieve at Real Madrid. I know he's kind of coming into the latter stages of his career now, and he's not making as much of an impact. But Luka Modric, 2015-16 was it when Leicester won it? He was kind of pivotal. It's just a shame that, again, he's in a team where it's a lot of nearly rants. Kind of when the big occasion came, they failed, and that's why he moved on to Real Madrid. You know what I mean? If you know you're good and you believe in yourself, why stay around somewhere where you know you're not going to win a league title when you can? Because let's be real, that was Spurs' best chance to win it. Everyone else was kind of off the boil except for Leicester, and he could have stayed there and just been the best player at the club, but he knew he was good enough to go at the best club in the world, Real Madrid, and he went there and he proved it. He won a Ballon d'Or. The chap was just like Ginola, but he didn't have that flair that Ginola had. He was so calm on the ball. He could pick a pass. He scored great goals. Just a joy to watch.
He was phenomenal at international level at the time as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's very, very true. Did they got to a final? Was it semi-final or the final?
They got to a final, didn't they? They got beaten in the final, but I mean, he was unbelievable in the tournament. He was unbelievable in the tournament.
He got player of the tournament. He got player of the tournament, I believe, in that as well, did he?
I think so. He might have. I'm not so sure.
I'm really sure he did, yeah.
He was brilliant.
Luka Modric on his day, there was no one better than him. So, the front three, I love this one because it's a bit Liverpool emphasised, and I was going to put Les Ferdinand. I'll say Les Ferdinand before I named the three, but I was going to put Les Ferdinand simply for that season, that they 95-96, when Newcastle should have won the league. He scored 25 goals. He was an absolute monster up front. Headers, 30-yard goals, tap-ins, poachers goals, making goals from nothing. He was just an absolute fucking beast. Again, another player who was so good, but at a time you had Shearer and that around, that he never really got a massive chance with England. It's kind of like the way it was back then is kind of the way it is now. There's so many good attacking players that you might be good enough, but the manager has his picks and you're not going to get into the team. But Les Ferdinand that season, I watched a few clips today of goals, and the fellow was an absolute fucking... He's like Drogba. He reminds me of Drogba. He was just an absolute monster up front. You couldn't stop him on his day. He was unplayable. So that the honourable mention for Les Ferdinand. So I'll jump into the three. I was gonna go with just a Liverpool front three of... I won't say who the three were, but the first one I stuck in was Suarez. You have to put Suarez in. 69 goals in 110 games. And I think only if you support Everton and Man United, you don't appreciate how good he was. He scored goals that you like. Sorry that I was scratching my head when I was saying that, but he scored goals where you were just like, what's he just done?
Yeah.
I remember I think one of his first goals for Sunderland, he gets the ball on the byline, on the back line, and he's running down the line. You're like, pull it back. And he wellies it with the outside of his right foot between enough space to get a ball through into the far top corner, and the goalkeeper's like, what the fuck are you after doing? Like, when he scored that goal, I was like, I knew he was good, and I was like, how have you done that? And honest to God, how have you done that? And that was just the start of it with Suarez. The thing I loved most about him was that he was an absolute lunatic, that he'd bite you. I don't appreciate the fact that he was a bit of a racist now, but he had that bit of bite that I think you need in the Premier League to be an attacker. You have to be able to take it, to give it. Now, he stepped over the line 5 or 6 times, but he wasn't afraid of anybody. Didn't matter how big you were, he wasn't afraid of anybody. He went out there, head down, blinkers on, and done his thing. And 69 goals. And when at that time, like there was some very, very good defenses in the Premier League. To score 61 goals in 110 games, left for pastures new way too soon. I believe he broke my heart like Torres did, but he forced his way out. But the time he was there, he was 110% committed, and came up with some absolute ludicrous goals. I think he scored 3 or 4 hat tricks against Norwich. But remember, we beat them 5-0. Was it 5-0, Niall? At Anfield.
So, yeah, I think it was 5-0 or 5-1 or something like that. Yeah.
He scored a lob from about 35 yards, and you're thinking, right, that's absolutely outrageous. Then the ball gets whipped down the far line, I think, by Luis Enrique, and he dinks it over the defender once, then he dinks it over him again, and catches it on the half volley with the right foot into the far corner. And I think only Luis Suarez could score goals like that, and that was when Sturridge was on fire as well. For to have the two of them up front, they could have put Sturridge in as well. He actually never even crossed my mind really, because of the other two that I have in the team. But Suarez was just absolutely magic. I loved watching him play. Gave me some great moments. Just the saddest one is when he was roaring and crying after the Palace game. So that tells you where that kind of ended. So move on to striker number 2. Didn't really want to do this, but you can't kind of pass by this fella's record. Harry Kane, 156 goals in 231 games. A lot of them penalties, but on his day, he scored some absolutely magical goals. He scored a goal against Arsenal there, a few back at White Hart Lane. He got the ball at the corner flag. He turned back inside, took a few more touches inside, and then he whipped one into the far corner. And he has that in his locker on his day. It's just a shame that he's a bit of a diver, and he's trying nowadays. He thinks he's in the wrestling, taking bumps, trying to break people's fucking necks when high balls are coming in. But Harry Kane, I believe he'll go on to break Shearer's record easily if he stays injury free. He's got dodgy ankles, but I believe he'll go on and break Shearer's record if he stays injury free and he stays in the Premier League. I believe he could go on and break Rooney's record as England's top goal scorer. As I said, I didn't really like. I don't really. He's an absolutely unbelievable player. I don't really like him personally, but you can't overlook his achievements as a goal scorer. And I do think he missed a trick not going to United, because I don't think Spurs are ever going to win anything. So I say that he breaks Shearer's record if he stays in the Premier League, but I don't think United, the likes of United, maybe Man City win, but I do see him moving abroad for 3 or 4 years just to taste the European football and see if he can do it abroad. I'll move on to my last striker. I love this one because God is God. Robbie Fowler was my first love as a Liverpool fan. My first game I went to see, he came on as a sub. Ian Rush was playing, John Barnes was playing, but being a striker, and when I really got into supporting Liverpool when I was probably about 12 or 13, Robbie Fowler was just my first love in football. He was, it's just
sensational.
What he done with the football. He put balls. His interviews, all his interviews finishing. He used to work on training every day to put it in the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner. Ian Rush used to told him what he should do in training. He went down and worked on it every day. He knew exactly where to put it. Didn't matter what way the keeper was going, it was going into the corner or it was going into the net anyway, regardless of what the keeper tried to do. When he left Liverpool, the whole Gerard Houllier thing and the not saying eye to eye and all that, really, I was really bitter about that, because if Fowler had stayed at Liverpool, I do think we would have won a Premier League. I just think when he left, that's what we were missing. Was like someone up top. Like I know Owen came in, but I just think Fowler and Owen together up front would have been absolutely frightening. They could have probably got 10 years out of each other. I think if Fowler had stuck around, I think we could have been a bit more successful, and I think Owen probably would have stayed then. I know Benitez kind of wasn't too pushed about it, Fowler had left. I just think if them two had stayed together for a longer period at Liverpool, that we would have been. I know we were successful in that time, but I do think we would have been more successful. I think we could have pushed on and won a Premier League. So it's not bad between the front three. Is this Suarez, Kane and Fowler? I think they've over just under 400 goals between. No, just under 400 goals between them
per season.
That's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
Per season.
Yeah.
Per season, yeah.
So tell us this: did you pick a manager?
I picked a manager. I was going to go with. It was Kevin Keegan or Brendan Rodgers. They were the only two I could pick. It was Kevin Keegan or Brendan Rodgers. I said the other night on the mashup that I know last week I said about I blame Rodgers for us not winning the league, not Gerrard's slip, because that game against Chelsea we only needed a draw. I know you want to go out and you want to win the game, but I think he was just overdoing it, trying to get that goal, and in the end, that's that. I know Gerrard's slip, but that's what caught us out. I think we could have been a bit more cautious in that game. He made bad decisions. Substitute wise, he was putting on extra attackers, thinking that we had to win the game. But I'm gonna stick in Keegan, because I think that was only his early days as a manager at Newcastle as well, and he done a phenomenal job to get that Newcastle team up towards United, because that was before United won the Champions League. But that United team was frightening. They just had that. Any team under Ferguson had that winning mentality. It was like Liverpool last year and the year before. If you were going to score one, we were going to score two. If you're going to score two, we were going to score three. And to get for Keegan to roil up a squad, and get them to challenge United and fall at the final hurdle, I said I'd stick him in just for that reason, because Rodgers was kind of coming in with a philosophy, kind of shown at Swansea. Everyone kind of knew what he was about, but Keegan was only in the early days, and for them to get that close to United, I think he deserves to be the gaffer. To be the gaffer.
Very good. All done?
Yeah, I don't even want to mention the subs.
No. Dino, run us through your one. Let us hear what you have.
I think my whole squads have been announced already.
Leaking the squad to the press, huh?
Yeah, that's what you're doing, yeah. I went with Friedel in goal. I thought Friedel was brilliant. He's had over 400 games in the Premier League for Spurs, Blackburn. And he also scored as well. So, that's a locker, you know what I mean? We move on to the defence. I went three at the back as well. I don't think there's any right or left backs out there that was worthy of a mention by anybody. I went with Carragher, which we all know. Ledley King I went for. I thought he was excellent. He only played 268 games in the league. But I think we all knew he was an excellent player and could have went on to do much more if he didn't have his injuries. And I had Desailly as well. As I said, coming off the two lads won the World Cup at centre back for Chelsea. He just named me whole squad. Couldn't believe it when he was going around. No way.
Great minds and all that, you know.
Yeah, that's where it is, yeah. I have Gerrard Alonso as well.
You had McGrath in as well, did you?
No, I didn't have McGrath, no. I got
no, just sorry, I don't want to cut across you. Just before, that's the first thing I meant to say was I was going to put Ledley King in. I believe if Ledley King hadn't the horrendous injuries he had, I believe he had the ability to be as good as Sol Campbell. I think he would have been better than JT, Rio, and Vidic, but just unfortunate injuries ruined his career.
Yeah, stop. He was incredible. He was incredible. But I went with Gerrard Alonso as well. I think everyone's probably going to have the two lads in there. They were unbelievable. Like Gerrard, obviously, Mr. Liverpool, one of the best players to ever play in the league. And Alonso was great, as you see, even when he went to Real Madrid, racked up a lot of trophies himself. And I did put Modric in as well. But it was between him and Mascherano. I had in there. Mascherano was unbelievable, one of my favourite players as well, but I thought Modric get. And on the wing, I had Gareth Bale. I thought he was excellent at Spurs. I don't think they were ever really close to winning, but them few years before he went to Real Madrid, he was unstoppable. Like, I know it's the Champions League as well, but what he did to poor Macon at Inter Milan, I don't think Macon played a game after that. That's it. Get the subs on there.
Okay. Mascherano.
And I did 2 forwards as well. I had Suarez and Fowler, same as Dean, but also I had to put Torres in there. He's probably one of my favourite strikers ever watching the Premier League. It was absolutely unbelievable. Anything a touch went into the back of the net. It was class. It's a bit up to what he did going to Chelsea, and I know he won the Champions League and that. He won the Champions League and that, but he was absolutely, even when he went back to Atletico Madrid, he was still unbelievable. Like,
He broke me heart.
yeah. I'm not going to do any special mentions for unbelievable players in winner, so I'll let everyone get their teams in first before we throw in the subs.
Cool. Did you pick a manager?
Has to have a manager.
Yes.
I'll go with Rodgers. I think that year was excellent as well. I think it was Sterling, Suarez, Gerrard, and Sturridge.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And obviously, apart and the Crystal Palace game, and then as Rodgers tried to grow, as Rodgers does, because we all know Rodgers is a real life David Brent. He tries to grow, and I think he tried to make that about him when he should have just set back. Mourinho was sitting back. Mourinho told them all this. You just hang around in our box.
That game,
all you had to do when you,
that game was Mourinho down to a T. Do you know what I mean? That game was, if you ever want to watch a video of Mourinho that piss you off, it was that game.
That was it. And then he ran up the sideline. He didn't even do it.
That was Brendan Rodgers, Kevin Keegan moment, really, wasn't it? Just meltdown city. Yeah. Anyway, Craig, let's have it. I know you were messaging me today saying how difficult this was to put together.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered for this, but I justify my selection. My one selection that I talked about earlier.
It's your team. It's your team.
Yeah, no, it's just my own opinion. David James in goal. Fully agree with what Ian said. Early years, I thought he was bleeding horrific. Absolutely horrific. But he came a long way, and as time grew on with his confidence, he was very vocal and he was a bit more solid at the back. And I'll also mention as well, at Portsmouth, I think he was absolutely outstanding in his later years. Under Harry Redknapp, I thought he was amazing. So not only his later time as Liverpool, but for Portsmouth, when we had that good season and playing good football, I thought he was vital in that. I thought he really stepped up. This is the one. I went with a back three, and I hope Dino appreciates this. I'll say why. There is no, from what I could see after doing the research of Barcelona, there wasn't no standout right back or left back. But I went for Danny Mills, right? And I'll tell you why.
Walk off.
Listen, I'm not. No, it's not a. I know. Yeah. I'll tell you why. I'm not saying about quality, and I'm not saying about. He's amazing. He should have won a Premier League title. But the reason I threw him into this back three is you could never fault him in a Leeds team for his commitment and for his aggression and things like that. That's the point that I want to get across. I'm not going, I could have threw Desoe in and that and like the others, but I was trying to think outside the box. And I know Dino's obviously a massive Leeds fan, and I hope that he kind of sees the pick as in, who's going to actually show up and who's going to get stuck into lads, especially back in a good lead side, and a lot of work went kind of under the radar, I think, as well. Obviously, he ended up at Derby, Man City. Not going to mention them times, but I'm not saying as in should he have. I know it's about should he have won a Premier League.
Niall is dying to say something here,
lads. You don't have to worry about your pick of Danny Mills. People are going to be hopping their phones off the buses and the darts tomorrow listening to the audio this when they hear two of you pick David James. Forget about Danny Mills.
So that was me literally thinking outside the box and putting him in. Just an honest grafter in a good lead side. I don't mean outstanding quality as in right back, left back. Moving on to the other two, it has to be Jamie Carragher for me. The best after the lads who won the league titles, and rightly so, as in centre backs after Terry, Vidic, the likes of Ledley King is the other one. If he didn't have that injury riddled career, like his intelligence and his tackling, I think he's unbelievable. And he's a coach at Spurs now, which only tells you as well why he's still around in the game. Obviously, it's absolutely outstanding. Midfield is obviously probably a lot similar to the lads. Steven Gerrard is my absolute hero. This goes, there's no words you can say about him. Bailed us out more times than anything else. When it looked like all is lost, the Olympiacos, the FA Cup, the Champions League, when you literally think there's no way back from this, we're done, and he just absolutely pops up with an absolute screamer. And it's out of nowhere, but he knows, like when he hits it, he knows exactly, I'm not chancing this out 30 yards. He knows exactly what he's doing. He missed at Liverpool, especially from my time growing up. He's the be all and end all. Beside him, I have Xabi Alonso. I've never seen passing until I seen Xabi Alonso playing for Liverpool. I've never seen vision and passing and like it's absolutely unreal. Couple of nice goals as well, like his long rangers against Luton and Newcastle, which again the vision, like it's just absolutely amazing. And him and Gerrard obviously complement each other very well. How they didn't get a Premier League title, not being biased, is absolutely beyond me. But the third option is someone that I've gone for that I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe he has a Premier League medal. I believe he has an FA Cup and a Champions League, but I went for Juan Mata. I went for Juan Mata. And the reason I went for Juan Mata is because you take the passing and the vision of Alonso, you take obviously Gerrard's finishing and his grit, but I think Mata goes under the radar for how influential he was, especially in big games as well. Coming from Valencia, coming over into England, it's never easy, especially for a small kind of subtle kind of player like himself, but he always showed up in the big games, whether that be Chelsea or whether it be Man United. He'd always be able to take the games by the scruff of the neck quietly, but would also pop up with a winner. And I couldn't believe that he won the Premier League. I thought he would have got one at Chelsea at least. But I thought
I had to Google it there just to make sure.
I thought he would have.
Yeah, I was looking, and I felt that he deserved a mention. And I thought he did have a Premier League. Fabregas was one I thought, but I remember he obviously got one at Chelsea. Just kind of from what I remember. My front three, Robbie Fowler was the first proper experience in my time of an out-and-out Liverpool striker. Like, absolute, natural, just raw finishing, instinct. Lovely moment against Arsenal, which is just hilarious. But as Dean rightfully said, when it comes to natural finishing, he knew exactly where it was going. It wasn't a case of like hit and hope. It was just no doubt. Exactly. It was instilled into him. Imagine like Ian Rush showing it. But the fact is with Robbie as well that he took on that mantle very well, I think, as well. When
at that age, he was so
at that age, yeah. It's a lot of responsibility, like they're following the greats of like Rush and stuff like that. I agree with Dean, very disheartened about how it went down the exit, because there was no need for that. And I'll always have that bit of bitterness, always, because what he did for us and how we see him, you know what I mean? It was completely unnecessary. When he came back for the year with Rafa, I thought that would have went slightly better as well. But I think Rafa did it for us more so than for Robbie.
Just to say goodbye, really.
Yeah. My other striker is lost for words with this fella, Luis Suarez. When we signed him from Ajax, I thought it was a bit of a strange one, like Kenny Dalglish getting Luis Suarez from Ajax. I was like, I couldn't really know what to make of it. I didn't know what it was going to be like, especially coming from the Dutch league. I knew he was obviously an up-and-coming player, but I didn't know how he would fit into England and how he would fit the bill. And as Dean rightfully said, this fella didn't give a bollocks who he was going up against. He didn't care, about physicality. He could give it back as much as he could take it. He could nutmeg a mermaid. This fella is absolutely.
I get giddy when I think of Suarez. He was just insane.
He wasn't real.
He was like when you were a kid playing football in the road. You didn't care, like.
And I remember I used to go mad when Milan Baros fucking used to run with the head down dribbling, and he's like, "Where's this fucker going?" But with Suarez, never had the head up, but it didn't even matter. He didn't care. It didn't even matter what was around him. You know what I mean? And Dean touched on some lovely goals. I remember one against Newcastle. The ball comes along and he takes it on the chest and turns Colaccini, and I'm like, how the fuck? Like, it's just a long ball.
What made me even think of it?
It's a long ball, and like he makes it out something out of nothing. He's absolutely incredible, and I'm so happy for him still going now, and he's top of La Liga, top scorer. I'm delighted for him. because he deserves it. And I hope he does get the league title in Spain, because he should have definitely got one with us.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Dean touched on the moment when he was off in tears. You know, he deserved it. No matter who you support, he deserved the Premier League title, I think.
Yeah.
The third one is my absolute, for me, this breaks me like even to this day, is Fernando Torres. I never emotionally recover from this ever. I had such a liking for him. Didn't know a great deal about him from Atletico. Knew he was a good player, but didn't watch him week in, week out and all. But when he came in, he just fitted us at that time. And like the partnership with Gerrard, like how fond Gerrard was of him and how fond they were of each other. It's like we believed more than ever, I think, that we could have got the title, and Gerrard believed that he could really rely on someone in the front line. Him and Fernando were just absolutely inseparable. When he went to Chelsea, I never wanted to believe that it was going to happen. I didn't think it would ever happen. But it did, sadly, and that's the way football goes, you know. But I idolised him kind of going as I was a bit older after Robbie Fowler. Torres was like my number one striker. Still do love him, but it breaks me heart.
So who did
Manager,
you... Yeah, go on.
Manager. It was a tough one. It was extremely tough. I know Brendan, I completely understand where the lads are coming from. Rightly so. I do agree with Dean that I do believe it was his fault. That was a game where we could have sat back. No one was going. It was a 0-0 if we sat back. They weren't going to come in and attack us at any stage in that game. He got it wrong, and that's the way it is. I went with Rafa Benitez, and the reason I went with Rafa is the team that Rafa put together, the style he put together in his tenure, with the likes of Mascherano, the likes of Alonso, the likes of even Arbeloa, even in his earlier year. Arbeloa I thought was very good. You know, the kind of like style he got us playing and the tactic awareness of the players that he was putting in got us the Champions League, got that over the line for us. I do, unlike same as Brendan, I do think Rafa was at fault for his own accord. He got sucked into the mind games with Sir Alex Ferguson. You don't do that. You stick to your guns. The worst thing you can do is come out and someone who's winning the league season in, season out is going to just chip away at you to try and unsettle you. And he went straight for the throat and he fell into it. But even off the pitch with Rafa, he did a lot for the Hillsborough Foundation as well. And I'll always be grateful for him for that. Always there as well. Put a big donation in as well.
Good stuff. Well done. So
I'm looking forward to this now.
It's
There'll be some random Yugoslavian player on here somewhere.
Bruno Cheru. No.
Oh God, Dimitri, all right.
No, not dissimilar to yourselves, lads. I mean, sometimes when you look at these things, you feel like the four of us nearly sent our teams to each other today, but we didn't. I went with Brad Friedel in goals, 450 appearances. You know what I mean? Just outstanding goalkeeper, outstanding professional, you know, never any hassle, always there, always happy as well at big clubs and all to sit in the shadow of goalkeepers and wait his turn and stuff like that, but an outstanding goalkeeper. At the back, I went similar to you. So I went with three at the back. I went with Carragher and I went with Marcel Desailly. But lads, as Liverpool fans, how do you not have Sammy Hippie in there? Lads, please.
He's on the bench.
So I went with Big Sammy. I couldn't leave Big Sammy out. I mean, when you talk about Gerrard saving us so many times with goals, how many times did Sammy Hippie save us with his face and his armpit and his body and everything he could throw in front of a block of a shot? You know, incredible. So that was my back three of Carragher, Sammy Hippie, and Marcel Desailly. I thought Desailly was a natural leader as well, and you know, just incredible player, you know. Then I went with four in midfield. Obviously, I went with Gerrard and Alonso. I mean, again, I know I'm a Liverpool fan, but I mean, it's the team that was always there or thereabouts or always playing well was Liverpool, really, that never won a league, if you like. They were always kind of in the shadow of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, and United, obviously, you know. So it's hard to pick other players. So my other two in midfield, I had David Ginola. Again, you couldn't leave him out. And I had Gianfranco Zola. Playing in that kind of pocket, if you like. And then again, the front three, I think anyway, picks itself. I went with Torres, Fowler, and Suarez. And Fowler to this day at times still doesn't get enough credit, really. I mean, he was really the first player. When you hear about Marcus Rashford doing all the brilliant work he's doing with the food for kids and all these other campaigns and stuff like that,
He's done that for the Dockers.
he was the first man to come out and support the local community through housing and, the campaign against the Dockers and all the local stuff that wasn't right. And, Robbie Fowler embodies everything that's Liverpool from a football point of view, right through to culture, right through to the man on the street. So yeah, that was the 11 starting 11 that I picked. And I went with Kevin Keegan as the manager because I felt I owed it to him, because it was really it was really us who broke his heart that season, really, with those 4 trees.
Yeah, he was ruined that for them. Yeah.
I mean, I just remember Collymore jogging up the byline and Keegan hanging over the barrier like someone had just harpooned him out of the Walking Dead or something. It was just terrible, and I felt so bad for them. If there was ever a night that I wanted Liverpool to lose, but it just didn't happen, But like what you said, Dean, earlier about starting, following Liverpool in '94, that's when I was getting a dislike for football, I had 11 beautiful men in ivory white suits losing FA Cup on me and all. I was so devastated, and I just,
that's like me forced. That's like me forced memory of, the Coca-Cola Cup final that they won against Bolton when McManaman scored that absolute breathtaking goal. But that FA Cup final, the white suits, that's me forced bad memory of Liverpool, where I was like, what the fuck were you thinking that day? David James and his fucking modelling career.
Yeah. And what
Hold on, I'm actually taking him out of my team. Hold on.
and what made it worse? What made it worse? It was Cantona who scored it through a body of players, which was, just terrible. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's talk about your benches. This should be very interesting now, because this is where we could have a lot of differential. The starting 11 kind of nearly somewhat picks itself. But it's your benches where. Your bench is where you'd win or lose this league now between the 4 of us.
How many subs are you allowed to have?
Give me 5.
Can I give you 6?
Go on then.
Right. So we were talking about the goalkeepers there. I did mention before, he said David James, that Pepe Reina. His stats speak for himself. 3 clean sheets in a row, 136 clean sheets in 297 games, and he has 4 assists. Plus, he probably be remembered for the most comical goal in Premier League history as well, with the old beach ball. You have to remember stuff like that. But there was a couple. Reina would obviously be me goalkeeper on the bench, but Brad Friedel was there. Nigel Martin, my first ever Liverpool Everton game. It was a 0-0 at Anfield. Nigel Martin, I think he made about 43 saves in that game. Prick. And Jussi Jääskeläinen, he was a bit of steady hands there in a Bolton team that when they got a bit of a run going, a bit of momentum, they were actually quite good. Steady at the back.
I just like to highlight, you have 6 subs and you've named 3 goalkeepers.
No, I said Reina, but these were other mentions. Look at
don't worry about the other mentions. The lads will be hanging up if you mention any more.
No, I have to shoot. Is that all?
Yeah, no problem, Craig.
I'll throw me thing in really quick, or if Dean wants to do an in-depth.
Go on now. Throw in your subs. Go on.
No.
Yeah, I've only a couple off the top of my head. I went to Candio.
Yeah.
Thought he was explosive. First kind of lunatic I've kind of seen on the football pitch, but the scissor kick and stuff like that, and he was just an absolute natural baller. Gianfranco Zola, first kind of dribbler I've kind of seen in the Premier League, old school kind of, who brought dribbling from the number 10. And I went with another different kind of Bolton player. I thought even Campo was very decent for Bolton, and his awareness and kind of ball retention, and kind of to make everything tick under the radar back in the older kind of generation, I thought deserved a bit of a mention as well.
Fernando Hierro as well.
Goalkeeper had to be Pepe Reina. absolutely outstanding. Unfortunately, as Dean said, with the beach ball incident, and then towards the latter end, kind of lost his way a bit as well. And yeah, that's what that's.
Excellent. Brilliant job anyway. Yeah, that's great stuff, Craig. So look,
Cheers.
I'll catch you before the weekend when we do that Merseyside preview.
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant.
Good luck, lads.
Talk to you soon, bud.
Yeah.
Right, Dane, now back to you then for your finish up.
My subs.
Your subs.
So Reina, my sub goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I was gonna put Stuart Pearce in my starting 11, and when I was going 4-4-2, but the psycho bit of the you want someone like that in your back four, you know what I mean, or your back three. You want someone like that going to war with you, because they didn't call him psycho for no reason. Like, he was, you put him in your team because you knew he was 120% every week, and he was, whatever shirt he was wearing, whether it was England, whether it was Forest, he was, that's all that meant to him when that shirt was on him. So Stuart Pearce was on the bench. In the middle of the park, I have Gianfranco Zola. And it was a toss-up between Barnes and Paul Gascoigne. I just wish Paul Gascoigne had fulfilled his potential and wasn't let down the road that he was led, and he had those issues, because if that fella had maybe if he hadn't have been the way he was, he wouldn't have been as good as he was. But I'd have loved to see him good 10 years in the Premier League sober, just to see what he could have really done, because that fella, he was really, really early in my days as a football fan, but that fella was really, really special. And then strikers, I have Fernando Torres and Kevin Phillips, because Kevin Phillips, at that season alone, they scored 30 goals for Sunderland. You know, he was just phenomenal. He put balls into the net from fucking anywhere on the pitch. He was he was like Robbie Fowler that season. He was just playing off Niall Quinn. He just, anything he touched went into goal. So yeah, that was my bench. Reina, Stuart Pearce, Zola, Barnes and Zola and Gaza, and then Kevin Phillips and Fernando Torres.
Great bench. Dane, give us your bench.
I don't like goalkeepers, so for Friedel, for me, he'll have to stay fit for the whole season. No red cards, no nothing. Right? And I'll just have a good list here. Some of them, I'll mention some that I would have been too young to watch. The likes of Gaza and the Premier League, Ruud Hulle. I thought he was brilliant, obviously before he came to Premier League, but he was still a class player. I have the Canio as well. Matt Letizia.
Yeah.
But from videos you can see, he was excellent. Like,
super player, yeah, super
Les
player.
Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Leg God.
In the 100 goal thing. And I have Robbie Keane here as well. But yeah, I don't know. It was a bit, I had to throw some sort of Leeds player in there after Fowler, didn't I? I thought he was decent. He played for us in the league as well. Liverpool and Spurs.
So that's it. That's your bench.
That's it, yeah. And I have Mascherano as well. Sorry, Mascherano's in there.
Nice. Very solid bench. It's amazing when you come out of the starting 11, really, that you arrive at a bench, that does be, bench full of stars as well, Not dissimilar to yourselves with my bench, because obviously I had Kane, McGrath and Bale are obviously there, and the Canio, and I had Ruud Hulle and Ledley King, and I had Robbie Keane. The only difference goalkeeper was I had Shay Given. Because I wanted to give him a mention. I just thought that consistency, and he was outstanding. I thought, you know what I mean, and it was so unfortunate in his career that he wasn't at Man City at the right time, if you like, you know what I mean, because he would have won all those trophies and those medals, really, because there's no doubt he would have been the main man at Man City. Just an outstanding goalkeeper, outstanding servant for Ireland as well, along with Robbie Keane. So that was my bench. But yeah, it was a tough one to do, really, because it's if you think about the four of us there and the four squads that we've picked, you know what I mean, there's no real difference as such, I mean, you mentioned Les Ferdinand there. I remember Les Ferdinand scoring a goal in the 90s, I think it was. I think he was playing for QPR, if I can remember. And he scored a goal like Ronnie Whelan's goal against Russia, where he scored a volley off it. He just volleyed the ball from about 35 yards out. I think it was against United as well. I'm not sure.
And it was like it got more powerful as it travelled.
Yeah, it was like Haley's Comet. It just took off and just hit the back of the net. And I think he scored it against United. And I think at the time he was playing for QPR. I'm not sure now. But I remember him wearing the blue and white stripes. And I think it was QPR he was playing for. But outstanding player as well. But I mean, when you look back on those Premiership years, and I mean, we touched on the Liverpool team with Brendan Rodgers, how they didn't win that league still boggles my mind. You know what I mean? And even how Newcastle didn't win that league that time with Keegan still boggles my mind to this day. You know what I mean? It's just, if you talk about collapses, it's unbelievable, you know. But yeah, fantastic, lads. Brilliant picks and all, you know what I mean? But as always, you will find us on YouTube on the Dynamo Podcast Network. So obviously hit subscribe, like, and share, and the bell notification to get notified for any new content. There's fantastic content up there at the moment. We have you covered basically on everything, and if we don't, let us know and we will figure it out. We are sponsored by Hogan Elite Trophy Hire, so you get 10% off there, or Mark over there will hook you up with any silverware you need, trophies for your special occasions, stuff like that. I think he has the full range of trophies there at this stage. Obviously not during these times, but obviously when things open back up and get a bit more normal, he's always out the door with these things on charity events. So head over there, hit a like on his Facebook page, Hogan Elite Trophy Hire. Also, if you want to support the podcast, buymeacoffee.com/the upper tier. We also have some merchandise up there at the moment. So if you want to pick up some of our exclusive merchandise, hit us up there and we'll look after you. So as always, lads, it's been absolutely brilliant. And sure, we'll touch base, which is again probably before the weekend when we do a preview for the Merseyside derby. Until next time, thanks again, boys. Take care.